Why is J.D. Vance the only pick President Trump could have made for vice president? You know, Big John has his music, get you going there. Ba-na-na. Hello, everybody. This is William del Pilar, and this is Fired Up. Or rather, this is a fired up clip. And I will explain to you today why JD Vance was the best and the only pick President Trump could have made for his vice president. And you have to wonder, what is Mike Pence thinking right about now? Well, who is JD Vance? Let me get my little presentation here. Share screen. Oh, yeah. Window. Ooh, I actually have to go here. Here we go. Or better yet, let's go here. There we go. That is JD Vance and his beautiful wife. I want to say Usha. He has been selected as President Trump's vice president. He was selected over candidates like Marco Rubio, Vivek Ramaswamy, even though Vivek was not on the short list. Well, first of all, Marco Rubio is an establishment cat. He has never held a job in the private sector. And I'll be frank, it sickens me how much support Rubio gets from conservatives. Yo soy Latino, and I don't agree with Rubio because he's establishment bought and paid for. The man, the New York Times was absolutely correct about Rubio. The man can't balance a checkbook, but yet wants to tell us how to run our lives. The other candidate was Doug Burgum. Now, I like Doug Burgum, a little bit of a conservatarian, had a little bit of libertarian in him, a very big promoter of states' rights. And that's what I liked about him. However, his inner circle, his inner circle was made up of never Trumpers. And that is a big no to me. Tim Scott was the other shortlist candidate, and I really liked Tim Scott. In fact, I briefly met him. One of those photo ops. Yeah. And so very nice man. Heard him speak. Comes from the heart. The problem is once you've heard him speak once or twice, you kind of hear the same speech over and over and over. But that's not my disappointment. My disappointment with Tim Scott is he's quite the neocon. He's become an establishment figure. But God bless him. I still like him. But to me, he was not the candidate to be the VP. And then came J.D. Vance. There were other people, but those three were pretty much the shortlist candidates at that point in time entering this week. Nikki Haley, some people thought she was going to be a shortlist candidate when they asked her to speak, but that was never in the cards. Trump doesn't like her. She doesn't like Trump. She actually, her political career post her governorship is because of Donald Trump when he made her the ambassador to the United Nations. And she threw him under the bus. She's also a neocon. She will also send your child to go die for a war so she can get a bigger house. She sits on the board. She's like worth 8 million, and she was like worth like less than half a million before she sat on these military industrial complex boards, and now she's worth like 8 million, and that's growing. So she was always out. Another one that people talked about was Tulsi Gabbard. These people who love Tulsi Gabbard, they must believe in the new Ronald Reagan 2080 rule, meaning they agree with 20% of her, and all of a sudden she's a conservative. No, Ronald Reagan's rule was 80-20, meaning, hey, if we agree 80% of the time, we're allies. We're always going to have disagreements. And with Tulsi, she's still a Bernie Sanders leftist. There's just a few issues or policies that we agree on. One, the most important being anti-war. It's funny, we have become conservatives, the party of anti-war, the grassroots, the constituents. And I served, my father served, my 3 siblings served. So out of our family, all of us but my mother served. So we're very patriotic. But at the end of the day, I grew up, I realized I don't want to see kids be sent to war that aren't really wars, but just mechanisms to enrich the military industrial complex, as well as make these politicians who are bought and paid for by the military industrial complex rich people. So that left me with J.D. Vance, who was a never Trumper. But we're going to get into all of that here shortly. Let me remove that. Okay. So, who is J.D. Vance? Well, first, he's 39. His current position is a United States Senator from Ohio. He was elected in 2022. And obviously, as we know, as of today, he was selected as Trump's VP pick for the 2024 election. His background, he was born in Middletown, Ohio, raised primarily by grandparents in Kentucky, and he served in the U.S. Marine Corps. After 9/11, he served as an enlisted man. His education is Ohio State University and then Yale Law School, where he met his wife. He has a couple of kids. His rise to prominence was writing the best-selling memoir Hillbilly Elegy, and that was in 2016. And I actually have a picture of that. Let's check that out here real quick. Oop, I don't want to stop screen. Let's see. Oh, present. That's what I have to do. Present, share screen. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still a little new at all this. Entire screen. There it is. Right there. Hillbilly Elegy. Now, this is the American dream. And this is just his second major step in the American dream. His first one was going to Ohio State University, then Yale Law School, meeting his wife, and then he has this book, Hillbilly Elegy. It was a national bestseller, and they turned it into a Netflix movie with Glenn Close. So it wasn't a chump change movie. So I mean, he's living large at this point in terms of his life, what he's accomplished, and his rise to prominence was that in terms of getting people to know him, but then he transitioned from a never Trumper to arguably Trump's greatest ally right now. His political stance, he is a conservative. He advocates for America First policies. And right, he aligns closely with Trump's agenda. I was looking at my notes there, like, I know I have to say something, but I wasn't quite sure what I had to say. Yes. So, in essence, he's conservative, he's America First, and he aligns with Trump's agenda. Now, I'm Latino. My dad's Puerto Rican. My mom's Panamanian. I have a half brother who is Japanese, lost his family in Nagasaki. I have a couple of half sisters. So we are mutts from everywhere. My bloodline runs from black to white, from straight to gay, from dirt poor to millionaires. My family runs the gamut. So people look at me and they're like, well, why are you America's first? That's racist. No, it's not. You have to take care of your own before you can help anybody else out. And let me give you the example. When you're on the plane, what do they tell you if those oxygen masks drop? Put them on your face first, because you can lose oxygen so quickly you may not have time to put it on your kids and then yours. You may both die if you do that. And that's my whole take on America. We have to take care of Americans. We have too many. We have tens of millions living below the poverty line. Tens of millions who don't have educations but yet graduated from high school. We need to take care of our people first. So yes, I am an America first individual. And Trump's agenda is make America great again. And this is what irks me about the left, the progressives, the Democratic Party. They made that racist. That's not racist, and they knew it. These people who made that racist, make America great again, they're already living large, earning six figures. Most of those anchors you see promoting that on the mainstream media, most of the talent they bring in as analysts, they're all millionaires or well off. So they're going to survive the bad times. They're going to be able to survive no problem. The people, that's a different tale. So they turned that into a racist claim, and it's not. So Vance is married. He's married to Usha Vance. She's a lawyer. They have three children, and I know two of them are girls at least. Some of the key attributes of J.D. Vance: he speaks for the working class American. He's seen as a major asset in some of these battleground states, and he represents a rapid ascent in the Republican Party. So he's He's living large. And when I say living large, I'm saying it as the ultimate compliment in the American dream. He comes from nothing, an abusive family, a family with major issues, to rise up to get an education at a major university, to get a law degree at a prestigious university, to become a techie type entrepreneur or businessman, and then to go into politics. Obviously, the book and the movie. So his rise has been rapid. However, it was not a given, his rise to U.S. Senator. It took Trump's endorsement to make that happen. So that is J.D. Vance in a quick summation there. But who is he really? Well, obviously, I mentioned Hillbilly Elegy. It's a memoir written by himself that tells us a couple of things about humanity and America. It provides a personal account of his upbringing. You want to know who J.D. Vance is? Read the book and watch the movie. And the book is pretty much a commentary on the culture and challenges faced by the white working class in Appalachia and the Rust Belt. People, you don't realize the Appalachian whites were seen as no better than slaves. They were the worst of the worst in terms of how they were seen by whites who came to this country. The Appalachians, they were the uneducated, the backwater. They were seen as white trash in that sense. So that's where he came from, you know. And the whole point of the book, specifically to para mi Latinos and to Black Americans, is we're all Americans. And sure, Black Americans, you guys were slaves. Latinos were seen as nothing but worker bees to do laundry, to be housekeepers, to pick the fields. Appalachian whites were pretty much in that boat. And the whole point of that book, or rather not the whole point, but one of the points is we're all the same in that sense. So again, when you see these mainstream media pundits, and then you see these race hustlers, whether they're black or Latino, or the white suburban mob, they're lying. There are more working class and poor whites than there are Latinos and blacks combined. You know, y'all think that we're, all white people are living large. They're not. That's the lie you've been told. And the book pretty much speaks volumes to that. The book explores his family history, his experiences growing up in Middletown, Ohio, as well as having the Appalachian roots. His grandparents, and he called them Mama and Papa. They moved from from Jackson, Kentucky, to Ohio. And as with most families, they moved because they wanted and were seeking better economic opportunities, and that's unheard of today, as most believe. Why should I move? Society owes me a job where I want to live. That drives me up a wall, because then they blame everybody but themselves for not being able to find a job. You got to go where the jobs are, people. It's that simple. His memoir details the struggles faced by his family, and that includes poverty, substance abuse, and domestic instability. His mom was quite the character, and not in a good way. You know, she struggled with drug addiction. She cycled through multiple marriages. And Vance credits his grandparents, especially his grandmother, for providing stability and encouraging him to get an education. And the reason I love J.D. Vance, the reason I wanted J.D. Vance, is that's my family. Outside of the education, my parents were working so hard to provide financial stability and in the middle income life for us, because they came from where Vance's grandparents came from. So I can relate to that, especially when I go back, or not go back, when I was raised with my Panamanian side, and they were beyond dirt poor. I've mentioned it before in other podcasts. You know, my grandmother's toilet, her bathroom was the outhouse. Our shower was the river. You know, it's to get to my grandmother as a child, we had to go by tugboat. Then we had to go by not rowboat, but one of those old Indian style boats. You know, now they have the the outboard motor. Before we were paddling it. From there, we'd have to mount horses, and then they take us to where my mother or my grandmother lived. So it was an all-day process. And from there, it wasn't like we were going to a castle. We were going to her small home. In the kitchen was a big black pot, like a witch's urn, dirt floor. The only thing we cared about was to make sure there were mosquito nets. So I relate to that poverty. I never experienced it like he did, but I was forced to see it because my mother, her belief was you will know who you are. You will know who you came from, and you will understand and treat these people, family, as equals because you are no better than they are, despite the fact that after a few months living with my grandmother, we'd go back to hot water, to American food. Well, actually, we had mostly Panamanian food or Latino food, but you get my point. So his grandparents offered him that stability. For me, it was looking at the life that could have been mine if not for the simple fact of being lucky and being born an American citizen. So the book also examines the decline of industrial towns like Middletown, where he lived at, as well as the erosion of the strong work ethic. And that drives me up a wall too, is the strong work ethic that is no longer there. Now it's like we demand to be given things. Children of today are entitled, and that includes my own relatives. So I've seen that firsthand as well. Now, in the book, it's characterized from his hillbilly perspective. That's hillbilly elegy, the strong work ethic he had with that. you know, so he joined the Marines after 9/11. And that taught him valuable life skills. And again, that's where I relate to him. Everything I learned about life, I learned in the military. After the military, I applied those, and I didn't do a very good job at times. So I'm still learning. And everybody goes through that, but I learned how to become a man in the military. I understood accountability. I understood responsibility. That's why I look at today's work ethic and I shake my head at these kids who've never had responsibility and accountability. Please, they're victims. It's never their fault. And granted, there are a lot of hardworking Americans out there, but there's also millions and tens of millions who don't want to work hard, who feel entitled. That I put on civilization. As civilization has become easier and easier for us, we become lazier, lazier. That's human nature. That's not an American byproduct. That's all over the world. Look at Europe, and look at the hungry countries in the Middle East, Central and South America, Caribbean. So it's different blood that's rising to the top now as first world countries become stagnant. Eventually he attended the Ohio State University and then Yale Law School. And again, that's where he met his wife. And, throughout his memoir, he reflects on the cultural and economic factors that contributed to the struggles of the white working class. Now, you're going to say, white working class, that's racist. No, it's not. Because we have been demagogued to believe white Americans have it best. They are privileged. No, they're not. You go to any trailer park, you go to any poor working class community, and they're doing no better than blacks or Latinos or any other downtrodden culture. It does not have anything to do with skin color as much as opportunity. And he talks about the loss of social mobility, the sense of disenfranchisement, which we see. So hillbilly elegy, it gained big time attention, significant attention, because it was insightful into the demographic that ended up supporting Donald Trump in 2016. It's no different than the demographic that supported Ronald Reagan in 1984 and 1988, the ones we call the Reagan Democrats, working class people. And I guess what? He talks about it from the book because he's white, so it comes from that perspective. But those individuals are black, white, Latino. His story resonates with Americans from a class aspect, not color. Now they wanted to resonate from color because they want us to be tribalistic, so we hate one another. It's a very important book you should read, especially if you're Latino or black. You'll come away with a different perspective. So again, I relate to the hillbilly elegy because of my parents. My parents came from nothing. Y'all think y'all know what poor is in America? No, you don't. Y'all do not know what third world country poor is. And that's what my parents had to deal with. My dad also was in the military 30 years in the special forces community. The street I lived on after we moved to the States, nothing but special forces. And they were white. There were whites, there were Asians. We did have one black family. Again, statistically speaking, there are mostly whites. We were the Latino. There were Lumbee Indians, a lot of Lumbee Indians in the area. But our whole street was literally special forces. And sure, they were mostly white, but we were all working class, so we didn't look at skin color. Our little gang had a few Asians. I think I was the only Latino. We had a couple of Lumbis, one black, and a handful of whites. So we were truly as diverse as it comes. So I can relate to all of this from the culture standpoint, and that's why I like J.D. Vance. So his life story doesn't necessarily align with mine. He's done much better, but it aligns with mine in terms of understanding the opportunities, becoming a man through the military, applying what we learn in the military to the real world, and moving up. And the reason I say that is I'm blessed to have been one of a handful of companies that created and built a brand new industry called fantasy sports that is a multi-billion-dollar industry, unheard of, only in America. And I am proud of that. Now, I don't always get the credit, but I am proud of that, and no one can take that away from me, just as no one can take J.D. Vance's accomplishments. Now, here's a kicker that I'm hearing already. He was never Trump, William. He was never Trump. I got news for you, people. I was never Trump. I supported Ted Cruz. I remember there was a picture, a drawing of Trump naked with a little wee wee there. I would throw that in the Trump supporters' faces on social media to piss them off, and it would. It would. I was a strong never Trump. I was so angry at Ted Cruz. I'm like, Trump talked about my wife that way. I don't care where we're at. I'm walking across that stage and knocking him the bleep out. Now, technically, I shouldn't be talking like that considering an assassination attempt, but that's how angry I would be at Trump, at how he talked, how vulgar he was, the mean tweet. But I didn't look at it as like, oh, I'm a victim. Oh, he says mean tweets. I was more like, I punch his ass out. So I was not a Trump fan. I was a never Trumper. And I was like, I'm not going to vote for him. We need Hillary so we can hit rock bottom and then see how bad it is. But came election day, held my nose and voted for Trump. That was in November. In February, March, once I saw those regulations being stripped, once I saw what he was saying, once I saw what he was doing, I realized that vote for Donald Trump was the most important vote I could have made. It's funny. Big John, my partner, he loathes Trump. He has TDS. We've talked about this. He says it publicly, and he got mad at me once. He goes, "You always interrupt me. You don't let me finish my sentence." And I said, "And I never will, because when you sit there and mention Trump in a derogatory tone, I will stop you and challenge you and correct you. Because if I don't, then by silence, I'm condoning that. And so I don't ever let anybody. You can make your point without being derogatory towards the president I support. And usually 99.9% of the time, you're not being truthful. You're just promoting one of the mainstream media lies. And that's how I am with everybody, whether it's family or friends. That's how much I turned around. I am a make America great again because he gave us the greatest economy, the lowest unemployment rate for not only blacks, Latinos, but whites, Asians, Jews, everybody. The lowest unemployment rate. Working class wages were up, rising. That's a rarity. And Trump did that. J.D. Vance was never Trump. From never Trump to make America great again. So doing my research, I'm like, okay, what specifically has he done that makes him make America great again? But he really hasn't done anything specific in terms of an event or policy. His transformation was kind of gradual. It was a gradual process, and there were a lot of factors that made it happen. One, political ambition. As he entered politics, that was in 2020, he started to recognize the importance of Trump and who he was and the support in the Republican Party, in the sense who supported him versus the establishment, rhino, swamp, whatever you want to call it, not supporting him. He started to realize his policies aligned with Trump's policies. He agreed with many of Trump's proposed policies, such as immigration and foreign policy. And real quick on immigration, his wife is Indian, from India. So he has a couple of biracial kids, and he's absolutely right. I've said this for years. You can want a controlled border, a closed border, and not be racist, because it's about being an American first. It's about taking care of your own first. One of my relatives got kicked out of this country because of his own doing, and I was so angry. First of all, he was here illegally. He had overstayed the visa, yeah, and then he got kicked out, and I was angry at him because of the missed opportunity he had. But I told him, "You broke the law. They're going to send you back. There's nothing I can do." I remember I was driving down the road, coming back from a convention or something, and I get the phone call. He's in jail. We got to do something, and I did. I took care of it. But I shook my head in disgust because he put himself in a bad predicament. And I'd love for him to come and back over. But the only way he could come here now is illegally. And I'm not going to have anything to do with that because there's a right way. He can't get here legally anymore because of what he did. So I believe, just as Vance does, you can want people to come in, but to do it properly, legally. Just because you want a controlled or closed border does not make you racist. And that's what Democrats do. They will destroy your family. They will destroy me because I disagree. No matter that I have Latino, Asian, black, white, gay, straight in my family, just because I disagree with them, they want to destroy me. And that's what they've tried to do with J.D. Vance. He started to recognize Trump's accomplishments. He did acknowledge that Trump was a commendable president. He started to see Trump had support from the grassroots, from the people within the Republican Party, especially in Ohio. And he saw aligning with Trump as something that not only was advantageous, but was a natural alignment. He developed a personal relationship with Trump, a rapport with Trump. He got to know Trump. See, and that's the thing about Trump. Even Democrats who say they know him, they say they like him. Not everybody's a Keith Olbermann who lives alone in an apartment with his cats, miserable. I heard a therapist once say that most, if not all, of his clients are liberals. That they're so messed up in the head with how they view life, how they're victims, how everything's out of their control and just weighs them down. And I'm thinking, man, this guy, he loves the Democrat Party, whether he's Democrat or not. He loves them because he's making a fortune off them. And obviously, as I said earlier, Trump's endorsement is what put Vance over the line and helped him win the U.S. race for senator from Ohio in 2022. So why do I relate with him going for Never Trump the MAGA? Well, as I told you, I was a Ted Cruz supporter. I was a Never Trumper. I said I never vote for the guy. And I started to realize Trump again was the correct choice because of the policies he began to implement, how he was talking, what he was saying. Trump thought we would all come together after his election as they've tried to do with Democrats. He quickly forgot. No, that ended in 2000 with Bush. They demagogued Bush, said Bush was an illegitimate president. They tried to steal the 2020 election. Al Gore did by cherry picking counties that were blue and going to the court saying, we have election fraud here. We have issues here. I remember the Chads when there was no vote for Gore, but because they voted for another Democrat or two, they said, well, they must have meant to vote for Gore. No, they didn't mark it off. They didn't vote. So they tried to steal the election. They were deniers in 2016, Hillary, all the media, Maxine Waters. They tried to do stuff with the electoral, with the making it official. And then nothing happened. Nothing said, oh, it's their right to do that. It's in the Constitution. Then 2020 came around and election deniers. Oh my God, that's never happened. Bull. It's happened over and over. And that really pisses me off. And it pisses a lot of people off because if you believe the lie, then you're an idiot or ignorant. J.D. Vance's upbringing shows that he's a pragmatic person. He sees the world through the lenses of reality. He does not have TDS anymore. And why is it that those with TDS or those in the political world only believe they can change? My partner, God bless him, he put out this tweet from 2016 where J.D. Vance was being sarcastic. But my partner was a conservative. Now he's libertarian. I'm not picking on him. It's just an easy example. There's other people in the same boat. Why is it that they believe only they can change? Why is it that they take a snapshot of somebody 10, 15 years ago, and that's who that person they say is today? It's very hypocritical. It's just bad policy to look at people that way. In fact, I still tell people, especially my employees, never forget who you are going up and ignore those who help you while you're going up. Because one day when you're on top, that will come to an end and you're going to come down. Always appreciate those who help put you on top. Always appreciate those who work for you and made you and the company a better person and made you or helped you make the money you have. Now, I don't believe the employees built this when there's an entrepreneur or somebody like myself who built my company, but they helped me build it. But I led the charge. That was my idea, my thoughts, my policies, etc. I don't like it when leftists go, "You didn't build that." Yes, I did. It's like Al Sharpton, African Americans built the world. And I'm like, no, they didn't. Humans built the world, depending on what part you lived in. But anyway, it's what I preach daily. You know, be good to your fellow man. Never forget where you came from. Always understand when you go up, you will come down. J.D. Vance thinks along those lines, and that's why I wanted him as the vice president. Again, somebody like Vivek, I love what Vivek says, but when you look back at his past, his actions show somebody who made millions with big pharma pushing COVID. So Vivek, do something first and then come talk to me. And my pride and joy is, again, a 5'7" Latino helped build a multi-billion-dollar industry today called the fantasy sports industry. It's American dream. So that's why I look at JD Vance and I'm like, I see a lot of him in me, or vice versa. I'm older. I also ran for office and won in my small political town, and I still have aspirations to one day maybe possibly seek higher office. And I've come close a couple times, but I want to build this small company out first. I sold my business for millions. American dream. I come from nothing. Actually, I come from a middle income, probably lower middle income is how I would put it. Not to sit there and try to make myself look better, but just the reality of my dad and what they paid him in the military with a family of four, all the bills, etc. And my mom not working. And then when we got to the state, she started the work, but it was my dad's salary that kept the family going because every dime my mother made went back to Panama to bring her family out of abject poverty into what I call Panamanian middle class. And God bless my dad. He never asked for a cent of her. He wasn't a dual income in the traditional American sense. Every dime she got, she sent back to them, and we got as part of our allowance. J.D. Vance is proof in actions and not words as well, and that's through his voting record. It can be characterized strongly as Make America Great Again for several reasons. It's consistent Make America Great Again positions. Vance has distinguished himself as the most consistent Make America Great Again aligned candidate out of the 3 GOP senators that were on Trump's VP shortlist. I'm trying to think. Rubio, Scott, and I can't remember the third, but I do remember. I do know Burgum and a couple others were on that short list. But the point being is his voting record is more aligned with Trump's. His foreign policy stance. Vance has harshly criticized the American engagement in foreign conflicts. He served in the military. I served in the military. As an adult, I now see it. Why are we there? We shouldn't be there. Our CIA, our foreign policy, we create these conflicts. We'll sit there and demagogue a political leader like we did in the Ukraine in 2014. That was a democratically elected Ukraine leadership. But they didn't align with America. They aligned more with Russia. So we went and helped create a civil war and helped put our guy in place. We're not as good of people as we'd like to think we are. And it's because of us, the people, not keeping checks and balances on the politicians we elect. He's opposed GOP establishment priorities, specifically foreign aid and federal spending. Again, we're sending billions upon billions. I think we've sent what 400 billion, 600 billion already to the Ukraine. Forgive me if I got that number wrong, but we've sent at least 300 billion, I think. Every time Zelensky asks for money, it's like 60 billion, 40 billion, 60 billion. He's asked for money 4 or 5 times and he gets it every time. What do we send? The Hawaii residents that had a man-made fire that destroyed literally the island they were on, burnt to crisp all their homes, $700 a person. Biden allotted. Think about that. We don't even take care of our own here. That's who the other one was, Rubio. Rubio. Or did I say Rubio? Yeah. Rubio, Tim Scott. Yeah. But Tim Scott and Marco Rubio, he has not aligned himself with their voting patterns. They are establishment and neocon individuals. They may not have started that way when they got here to the Senate, but they quickly flipped. Tim Scott has been a recent flip the last few years, but they've slowly been indoctrinating him, making life good for him. Rubio, right away. Remember, Rubio's never held a private sector job. Tim Scott built his little auto insurance business. So God bless him. He understands capitalism. Rubio doesn't. So Vance has taken more Make America Great Again aligned positions. His defense spending belief. He was one among 11 senators to vote against the annual defense policy bill. Why? He was opposed to the long-term military aid to the Ukraine that's bleeding us dry, putting us into trillions of dollars of debt. He aligned with the Make America Great Again base. That's me. With a willingness to use shutdowns as political leverage. The Republican Party does not do that. The Democrats do that. He believes, and he's in the minority from the Republican Party, to use those as leverage because you get things done. And he should. He has no fear of the mainstream media demagoguing. And all these other Republicans, like Rubio, like Tim Scott, they break down and they cry, and then they vote for the funding, which puts us more in debt. And they're so pork-filled, it's disgusting. He has a conservative rating of 96% lifetime score. Granted, it's only a few years from the Conservative Heritage Action. Now, that's higher than Tim Scott, who's pretty high at 94%. So Tim Scott is bought and paid for by the neocon, by the military-industrial complex. That's where he falters. And somebody who's bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex has no issues with sending your kid to go die so the military-industrial complex can make money. And that's a big red flag with Tim Scott, despite his 94% Heritage Action conservative score. And Rubio's at 81%. You may say that's high. No, that's like C work. I want to see 90% or above. His immigration stance, J.D. Vance, unlike some Republicans who supported comprehensive immigration reform, Vance has maintained a hardline stance on immigration, as I do. There's a right way to do it. We don't need to lower standards. We have tens of millions of Americans struggling here that we need to take care of first. And we need people, immigrants, to fill not certain jobs. When I say, I'm not talking about picking the fields, I'm talking about high-tech jobs, because our education system is so poor, we don't have enough people of intellectual smartness or the ability to fill these jobs, because our public education has been co-opted by the teachers union and Democrats who indoctrinate, they don't teach. So we have to bring outside people. I'd rather bring those in as we ramp back up our public education system to be able to generate children with the smarts to take these jobs. I don't want to bring illegals to work the fields, to work the McDonald's jobs. You know why? Because Americans will take those jobs. Now, granted, the pay for them would have to come up. So don't give me this crap of, well, we can't have that. So you're okay with illegals working for poor wages? But William, they're trying to create minimum wage laws. That doesn't help anybody. Minimum wage laws are artificial. May as well make it $100 an hour. It's artificial. There's a supply and demand. Illegals bring that demand down. Americans would take those jobs. We'd have less Americans unemployed, but the wages would go up. And here's the most important part. Most of those jobs would be taken by our children, where they would learn responsibility and learn accountability and become better stewards of this country. They would become productive citizens of this country. And you don't know how important that is to keep our way of life. We are the greatest country on this earth. Despite what leftists want to tell you, we are not a racist country. If we were a racist country, why are Haitians going in rickety rafts 500 miles to hit the Florida coastline? Why not just go the 50 miles into and head towards the workers' paradise called Cuba? Because they know the reality of what America is. We're not a racist country. Nonsense. Vance has a populist approach. He's seen as a populist within the Make America Great Again. And I believe in populism as being patriots, to as being Americans first. I'm an American first. I'm a Latino second. And that's how it should be. You should be American first, black second. American first, Latino second. American first, white second. American first, Asian second. And that's who J.D. Vance is. And that is why he's the best pick. J.D. Vance will be able to go into black communities, Latino communities with his story and give them actual hope of what you can achieve when you put your mind to it, when you don't listen to people telling you it's not your fault that you're a victim, as I used to do. Actually, I never did, but that was a crowd I hung with because I was a liberal. I wanted to save the world. Eventually, I realized these people are losers. They're okay with me living my whole life working a minimum wage and being dependent on government and being happy for the breadcrumbs. If I take a risk, I can become something. I was scared bleepless when I quit my day job. And I had that day job for so long because of the benefits. And I took a leap of faith and started my own business with four partners, ended up being two partners. We ended up selling it. And I was an angry mother bleeper because 52% of what the company sold for went to taxes when you combine the state and federal. It was disgusting. These leeches taking our money like that. Well, it doesn't help the poor. No, it doesn't. There are, out of our budget, I'm speculating, but I'd say a third of it is wasted money going we don't know where. Bloated bureaucracies. Look at the Department of Education. You know, black and Latino kids graduating with sixth and eighth grade uh, 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 levels, at sixth and eighth grade levels, graduating high school. We have all these programs to force people of color, colored people, whatever you want to call them, Latinos, blacks, into universities, and they're in over their heads. And they drop out owing all this money in debt. If you're black or Latino and you're for Biden with the student debt and you didn't go to college and you're working class, I got news for you. You're paying off the debt of upper class white kids. That's not a joke. That's statistically there. I mean, it's the statistical evidence is there for you to go look up. You should be angry. These are contracts. I paid my student debt off. I made a contract, meaning they're going to lend me money. I'm going to pay it back. They make it sound as if they're doing you a favor, Black America. No, they're not, because most Black Americans don't have a college degree. Neither do Latinos. And we're going to end up paying these debts back. I hope Trump re-implements that. And Biden's breaking the rule, the law. The Supreme Court ruled he can't do that, and he did. That's an impeachment. That's something that they should impeach him for, throw him out, then prosecute him. He's corrupt man. J.D. Vance will be able to tell the story of the American dream. He's also quick-witted, meaning in these media interviews, he's always able to hammer them back eloquently. He is a force. He's a pit bull that Trump needs with a story of hope. The Hillbilly Elegy is part autobiography, part sociological. It offers a unique perspective on an often misunderstood segment of American society, the poor white man, the poor working class. And the reason I say that is because that's his life story. But you could put any color in there because the Appalachian whites were seen as on the same par as slaves or Native Americans. So y'all don't know that because you're not taught that in history. I taught that to myself by being a voracious reader. And I was stunned, even though I did suspect it. I always saw that dynamic, the hillbilly, the bootlegger, the guy with the accordion or whatever. They always mocked that, made fun of that. So when these blacks or Latinos or Asians or Democrat white suburban moms tell you otherwise, they're lying because they want to use you for a vote. That's it. Look at your lives. How has it actually been better under Democrats? It hasn't, especially right now. There's some things that have gone up in price from say $2 to $6 since Biden took office. And Biden keeps lying. Inflation was 9% when I took over. No, it was less than 2%. Now it's over 9%. Vance's shift from a never Trump critic to a staunch supporter, a lot of us can relate to that. I'm a Latino. I was a Ted Cruz guy. I relate to that. I am a staunch Trump supporter now. A lot of blacks are too. Look at 50 Cent, as long as he doesn't talk to that white woman who keeps crapping on him, telling them, you can't do that. You're black. You got to listen to me. 50 Cent is a nickel when he does that. But he went from a never Trumper to a staunch supporter. J.D. Vance is a political pragmatic person. His personal connections to Trump, to the Make America Great Again mentality, the movement, the background, the history of the type of people we are, working class, poor, who want the American dream. He's more attuned to that than he is a specific rhino policies, Democrat policies. And to justify that, he kind of poo-poos, his past in the sense, yeah, that's who I was, but this is who I am now. When it comes to people who want to dwell on that, he's emphasized Trump's accomplishments as president. His voting patterns and policy positions that he now holds, they demonstrate that strong alignment with Make America Great Again principles. His voting record is consistent with Make America Great Again. And this is the new duo. Here is your new duo. I present to you former President Donald Trump and his vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance. And let's be honest here. Let us be honest here. What is Mike Pence thinking? Because J.D. Vance, odds are it could be a landslide. I am very concerned with voter fraud because of the absentee ballots, and I'll talk about that in another clip. But I'm very concerned about that. At the end of the day, J.D. Vance is setting himself up to become the next candidate. That's the one thing about the VP. You can set yourself up for that. Mike Pence was a joke as a candidate, betrayed Trump, threw him under the bus, yet wanted to take credit for all the good things that Trump did. We all saw right through him. I actually saw right through Pence when he promised Ted Cruz the endorsement, then held back on it because he was playing politics. I accepted him as a VP because I knew why they did it. It was the bridge to the rhinos of the establishment and to the Christian grassroots base. Now everybody knows who and what Pence is. So, but here is your new duo, And in closing, oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Huh. This is interesting. I am looking for oh, here we go. Here we go. There we go. Big John likes the big screen there. So in closing, he is a Marine Corps veteran, a best-selling author, a successful tech investor, and a United States senator. His roots are from Appalachia, where whites were seen as the equal of slaves and Native Americans in the mentality of those who came over from Europe. He came from nothing, from an abusive family, and he is living the American dream. J.D. Vance is everything I hope for every American to have, to accomplish. We are the land of opportunity. The American dream is within your grasp, and J.D. Vance is the example. I am William Del Pilar. You can find this podcast and others our entertainment, our sports, our libertarian podcast at grumblingsmedia.com, as well as other social media platforms such as YouTube, Rumble, Google, Apple, Spotify, y Pandora under the profile handle Grumblings Media. Again, I am William de Pilar. This is Fired Up. And until next time, I bid you adieu, and let's make America great again.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.